Many watch collectors have heard of the Seagull 1963, a legit Chinese pilot's watch. But what would a reimagined Chinese pilot's watch look like? One with even more Chinese elements to it. Let's get into it. Hey again everyone, my name's Brian. I live in China. I like affordable watches, especially Chinese watches. Today we're going to look at the San Martin SN0033 GC, a pilot's watch with Chinese elements. If you're liking this channel, remember to like and subscribe. There will be a link to this watch and any watches mentioned in the description. I will get a small commission. You will not pay anything extra, but it will really help to support this channel because I am buying these watches with my own money. By the way, where are you guys from? Which country are you from? How long have you been collecting Chinese watches? Or are you just curious about Chinese watches? Let me know in the comments. So a quick note, I know I've been doing quite a few videos about San Martin watches recently. I'm not sponsored by them, I just happen to be interested in a few of their watches, but I will try to mix it up more in the future. And a note about the San Martin name. Now, a lot of people have commented that San Martin, it kind of sounds like a fake Italian or French name. Yes, perhaps. I think it's relatively inoffensive compared to some of the, sillier Chinese brand names on AliExpress. However, interestingly, the brand's name in Chinese is actually Zhenyun, which means military spirit in English. And perhaps we can see that reflected in the number of pilots' watches and field watches which the company has done in the past. In fact, they've had some variations on the SN0033 pilot's watch in the past. Let's get into the review. Oh, and keep watching to the end when I give my final verdict, of course, and even give some alternatives to this watch. First, let's get into some dimensions. The watch weighs in at about 65.9 grams. It has a case diameter about 39.6 millimeters. It is roughly 12.5 millimeters thick. It does have a 20 millimeter lug width. That large onion crown is 7.5 millimeters. And about 47.6 lug to lug. So it should wear well on most wrist sizes. It is slightly larger than their previous pilot's watch, and with its relatively large dial, it should have a lot of presence on the wrist. So let's talk about the case. Now, a pilot's watch is supposed to be a fairly utilitarian tool-like thing, but this does have quite good finishing. As usual, it has very fine horizontal brushing, usual for San Martin, I mean. There is a nice polished chamfer along the sides, along the edges. There is that thin coin edge bezel, and a polished ring just inside of that. The case curves quite nicely at the lugs, and that crown is nicely finished, nicely decorated. For the strap, we have a nice suede strap with quick release, a little bit unusual for San Martin. And we do have that sign buckle. Let's talk about that dial, and I think it's a very nice dial. Starting from the center, we have that sand-blasted texture. The sword hands are a bit undistinctive, to be honest. Outside of that sand-blasted texture, we have circular brushing all around, quite nice, and those loomed applied Chinese numerals, which I think are pretty cool. And then finally, that railroad chapter ring around that. So it kind of does feel like a reissue of some forgotten vintage watch. Was there actually a watch like this in the past? If you do know, let me know in the comments. By the way, it does have the same numerals, the same font as the SN0144 CG, one of the new flagship San Martin watches this year, although that one has a more elaborate enamel dial. So some differences with the previous version of this watch is that the diameter is slightly larger, 39.6 instead of 38.5. Just slightly more thickness. And I should mention that inside there is a Seiko Epson YN55 movement as opposed to an NH35 movement. I'll show you the results on a Timegrapher. So as you can see, it's running -3 to 0 seconds a day, which is excellent. I'm thinking these are regulated before they're sent out. So let's look at this on the wrist. Pretty classy, classic look, I would say. Somewhere in between a military watch and a dress watch because of that mix of nice finishing and the simple layout. Okay, let's look at this on some other straps. And here we have it on a black leather strap, providing nice contrast. I think it looks pretty good. And in fact, this is the only other strap I put it on because I got distracted and forgot, frankly. Sorry about that. So let's look at a Lume Test next to a Zin 556 and a Seiko SRPK. So as you can see, it has good lume. It does outdo the Zin pretty quickly. It does hang in with the Seiko for a good bit, but it doesn't quite last in terms of longevity in brightness. Okay, final verdict. This is a good, classy daily watch with some cool Chinese elements to it. It has a decent movement, which seems to be regulated. The silver version was my favorite. The white on silver actually provides okay legibility. If you want something funkier, go for the green or purple versions, which have even better contrast. Am I going to keep this watch, though? I am not sure, to be honest. I do have a few good Pilot's watches already, the SN 556, and at the lower end I have my Bernie Titanium. And while I like the Chinese elements, there are other watches with Chinese numerals recently. So let's talk about alternatives. As an alternative, you can still get the previous SN0033 if you don't mind an NH35 movement. They seem to cost a bit less at about $188. I've seen one for $161, which I'll link in the description. So that could be a good choice if you prefer that design, if you prefer Arabic numerals. If you want to go higher end, you can get the same numeral set on the SN0144CG, which is a more premium watch. It has that sunburst enamel dial. It has that premium bracelet, which I reviewed on the SN0148. But that does cost almost double at $378 outside of the sales. Although there's usually just another sale coming around the corner. Another alternative are Hua Suo watches at about the same amount of money. They also feature Chinese elements, Chinese numerals, and perhaps even more unique, beautiful dials, these unique lacquered dials. Okay, that's all for this time. Again, if you want to know more about the latest exclusive and early releases of Chinese watches, remember to like and subscribe. I'm Brian, the Chinese Watch Guy. Enjoy your watches.